Okay, so India's annual budget, it's way more than just a boring spreadsheet, right? It's really the country's game plan for the next year. So, what's the big strategy for 2026-27? We're going to break down the key priorities, really get into the blueprint for India's growth. Let's dive in.
So, to really wrap our heads around this budget, you've got to understand the philosophy behind it. It's all built on these three core principles they're calling kartavyas, which basically means duties. And the very first one, the big one, is right here. It's not just about growing the economy, it's about putting it into overdrive.
Yup, these three pillars. The whole financial plan is built around them. Think of them as our roadmap for understanding every big move in this budget.
All right, so here they are. Number 1, powering the economy. Number 2, empowering the people. And number 3, making sure that growth is inclusive, that it reaches everyone. You could almost think of it as the what, the who, and the how of the whole strategy. Simple, right?
Okay, let's tackle that first duty head on, powering the economy. So, how are they going to do it? Well, the budget's main tool, its big bet, is on infrastructure. We're talking a huge injection of cash to build a faster, more connected India.
And just look at this number. It's staggering. 12.2 lakh crore rupees. That's for what they call public capital expenditure. All that really means is long-term government spending on big things. Assets like roads, ports, power plants. A number this big tells you one thing. The government is really betting the farm on infrastructure to be the engine that pulls the whole economy forward.
So, you might be wondering, where is a huge chunk of that cash going? Well, here's your answer. The railways. They're getting a record-breaking 2.93 lakh crore. Seriously, this is the highest it's ever been. It's a massive signal that they're going all in on modernizing and expanding India's rail network. It's like they see it as the circulatory system for the whole economy.
So what do you actually get for all that money? This. 7 brand new high-speed rail corridors. And look where they're going, connecting all the country's biggest economic hubs. The big idea here is that these aren't just tracks for trains. No, they're designed to be growth connectors, kind of like arteries for the new economy.
Okay, but growth isn't just about building things like railways and roads, right? It's not all concrete and steel. The budget is also making some really strategic bets on high-tech and high-value manufacturing. This is all about securing India's competitive edge for years to come. And the strategy is pretty clear, They're targeting key sectors of the future. We're talking about a 10,000 crore plan to become a global biopharma hub, a huge new push for making our own semiconductors, and even setting up special corridors for rare earth minerals. It's all about one thing: securing those critical supply chains and making sure India climbs up that global value chain.
All right, so that's the economy. Now let's move on to that second duty, empowering people. Because all this economic growth, it doesn't mean much if it doesn't translate into real opportunities for you and me. And the cornerstone of this plan is a brand new flagship scheme aimed squarely at creating jobs and bringing more people into the formal workforce.
It's called and it's a mouthful, Pradhan Mantri Viksit Bharat Rozgar Yojana. Let's just call it the PMVBRY. At its heart, it's a really simple, two-pronged attack. It gives a financial boost to people who are just entering the formal workforce for the very first time, and at the same time, it gives incentives to the companies that hire them. Win-win, right?
So how does it actually work? Well, if you're a first-time employee, you get a one-time cash boost, up to 15,000 rupees. Pretty nice. And for the employers, they get a monthly cash incentive for every new person they hire. And get this, for manufacturing companies, that support can last for up to 4 years. That's a huge deal for encouraging long-term job growth.
Now, the incentive for the employers? It's tiered. Basically, the more someone earns, the bigger the benefit for the company. It starts at about 1,000 rupees for lower wage workers and goes all the way up to 3,000 rupees a month for higher earners. The idea is to make it really attractive for companies to hire people at all different skill and pay levels.
So, when you step back, the big picture goal of this whole scheme is pretty clear. First, pull more people into the formal, tax-paying economy. And second, give a really big push to job creation, especially in that labor-intensive manufacturing sector.
But empowering people isn't just about jobs. It's also about education, right? So let's take a look at the money that's been set aside for this really crucial sector. And we have to ask the big question: is it actually enough to meet the nation's goals?
Okay, so the total pot of money for the Ministry of Education is over 1.28 lakh crore, and you can see how it's split. The majority of it, about 61%, is going to school education. The other 39% is for higher education.
But here's where it gets interesting. That number, 1.28 lakh crore, it sounds like a lot, right? But you have to put it in context. The total spending on education is still only around 4.6% of GDP. And the national goal, the target they're shooting for, is 6%. So yeah, that's still a pretty big gap to close. And that remains a huge challenge.
All right, last but not least, let's talk about that third duty, inclusive growth. This is all about making sure the benefits of a growing economy are felt by everybody, not just a few. And one of the most direct ways the budget tries to do this is through changes that could affect your wallet. So let's look at what's changing with direct taxes. So the big headline here is that a new Simplified Income Tax Act is on its way. But there are some changes that are going to happen much sooner. You know that tax collected at source, the TCS? It's basically an upfront tax you pay on certain things. Well, that's getting cut to just 2% for stuff like overseas tour packages or sending money abroad for education or medical bills. That, plus a few other things like making interest from accident claims tax-free, it's all designed to make the tax system a little less complicated and hopefully ease the financial burden on all of us. So if we take a step back and look at the whole thing, what's the one big takeaway? I think it's this. This is a budget that's making a massive all-in bet on infrastructure to power growth. And at the exact same time, it's launching one of the biggest pushes we've ever seen to get more people into formal jobs. Look, the vision here is undeniably ambitious. A high-growth, high-employment economy where everyone benefits. Sounds great. But a blueprint is just a piece of paper. It's only as good as the execution. So the huge question this budget leaves hanging in the air is a simple one. Can India actually pull this off? Can they execute this vision on time and on budget? The answer to that question is really going to shape India's future.